Malekith the Witch King sent us under cover of night to reclaim our ancestral homeland. Spewing forth from the Black Arts, we arrayed ourselves against our hated foes. I arrived in the Blighted Isle, a bride of Cain, and I would offer up such a feast of blood as to make all the gods bloated and satiated on death. It became apparent that exploiting the lesser races, the foul chaos-touched and the unclean greenskins, would offer the most opportunities for the carnage I loved so well, and so an alliance began to form. There were those special to me in those times, and those merely expedient, but all played their part towards bringing about the downfall of the detested Alliance of Order. There were rivalries, names of enemies swimming out of the darkness of anonymity, to die shining and hated on the bloody battlefields, a fitting tribute to my lord. Beloved enemies, beloved blood, beloved war. And yes, the one thing, friend, ally, and hated foe, the one thing we all beheld as truth across those crimson-stained years of chaotic slaughter, was that the war, indeed, was everywhere. To prepare for the battles ahead, we were called upon to deal with the monsters that populated the world, lest their treasure, armour and weapons fall into enemy hands. Scattered across the lands, the lairs and dungeons of these beasts were cleansed of their dangerous inhabitants, and the victories offered small triumphs, testing our warriors in readiness for the long and bloody war. Legends were forged and stories told, the ancient names whispered across campfires. Zafan the Pyre, Gorthlak, Bleakwing, and Kari, the Morra. All these and more were fought and disposed of during the Age of Reckoning, but they should never be forgotten. The inevitable city. A domain of lost souls, madmen, mutants and demons. It is a realm of chaos given substance, and serves as our alliance's capital during the Age of Reckoning. The leaders of our races, Dark Elves, Chaos and Greenskin, plot their manoeuvres here, sending thousands to war and death. Our army has not seen its twisted streets and forgotten byways for some time, as we fight for victory and domination in far-off lands. Some fear, and rightly so, that we will never lay eyes on this hellish haven again. The war spread across many lands, with each race fighting for control. The Dark and High Elves fought incessantly for their ancestral home, with the most vicious elven battles fought from Etain to Caledor. The history of the Druchii and our hated kin goes back millennia, ever since Malekith was denied his rightful throne to Belshazzar, the hero of war. Under the shadow of Morathi's cult of pleasure, Malekith and his followers killed most of the Orthuan princes, utterly destroying the council. Malekith had only to pass through the sacred fire of Asuryan to complete his coup, but due to foul Asur treachery, the sacred flame burned and scarred him horrifically, and he was returned to Nagarithi. The wondrous powers of Hotek, the renegade priest of Vul, forged Malekith's armour of midnight, and he survived, with new and immense supernatural powers. The High Elves, meanwhile, had elected a new Phoenix King after the coward Belshazzar's death, and thousands of years of bloody war ensued, culminating in the Sundering, a great cataclysm which sank much of Nagarithi and Tiranoc. The elves of Nagarithi were forced to use their magic to set their fortresses and cities afloat, and escape west to Nagaroth in their black arks. In this age, the Age of Reckoning, the Phoenix King Finnabar has left Orthuan to fight the Chaos Northmen in the Empire, giving us a new chance for victory. Fighting was long and hard, waging back and forth across the elven lands, with the most brutal loss of life occurring in Dragonway. Yet eventually, we were able to lead our enemies all the way to the gates of Fell Landing, where our army lay in wait. Alas, poor enemies, you stood not a chance. Ah, greenskins, our messy allies. They are ill-tempered, primitive, and live only to fight. In their culture, might makes right, and the weakest members of society are one false step away from becoming dinner. The dwarves, in contrast, are a proud race, although shaped by vengeance for any slight. They store such histories in Damaz Kron, the great book of grudges. By far the greatest and most vengeful of the grudges held in Damaz Kron are against the goblins and those who aided them through the Groby Wars. Page after page of the tome records in grim detail the events of the 1,000-year-long period of history when the tribes of goblins swarmed over the World's Edge Mountains, inflicting mass suffering in the dwarf kingdoms. In our time, the Greenskins have been united by the Black Orc warlord Gromlock and the goblin shaman Gazbag. Together, they have led their tribe, the Bloody Sunboys, to dominance by capturing the dwarven garrison of Karak-8 Peaks. The dwarf High King, Thorgrim Grudgebearer, has vowed revenge, and the entire dwarven nation has gathered at Karaz-a-Karak and been mobilised. Unfortunately for the dwarves, an old debt to the Men of Empire has been called in, as they too come under attack, and the dwarven forces are spread thinly. This gloriously violent situation has turned all the dwarven lands into war zones, and the Greenskins are running amok, bent on destroying everything in their path. Alas and alack, despite the enthusiasm of our green-skinned allies, if they were beaten too soundly, they were prone to withdrawing in a distinctly unorderly fashion, leaving the smallest and slowest behind to slow the pursuit. A fierce race then, but ultimately unreliable. In the distant past, our world was paid a visit by an ancient starfaring race who quickly established gateways above the northern and southern poles. Time passed and the gates shattered, sending a cloud of warpstone dust high into the atmosphere, where it drifted all over the planet, causing horrible mutations and giving birth to many of the creatures on the world today. The gate's destruction also allowed the denizens of the Chaos Gods into this world, but after centuries of demonic incursions, they withdrew to the northern Chaos Wastes, as new races began to arise in the world. One such race is the Chaos-worshipping Northmen. They are a barbaric tribal people who gather themselves into war hosts to attack each other and the softer men to the south, wearing their mutations as blessings, proof that the gods are watching over them. In the Age of Reckoning, such a war host, the Raven Host, has attacked the Empire's northern borders under the leadership of a powerful champion of Tzeentch, the Changer of Ways. The The timing of the invasion is particularly ill-fortuned, for the Empire is being ravaged by a mysterious chaos plague that's transforming the populace into murderous fiends and mutated chaos spawn. Against this backdrop of certain doom, humanity has united to fight against corruption from within and encroachment from without. Faced with such desperate circumstances, Emperor Karl Franz has been forced to call upon the dwarves and high elves for aid, lest his lands be transformed forever into a nightmarish domain of chaos. The forces of destruction and the Alliance of Order have fragmented into scattered warbands fighting across the contested lands. Peace is a concept few of us understand, as the never-ending cycle of hate carries us towards our destiny and a bloody end to the Age of Reckoning. And it came to this, our final stand in the dwarven-controlled snowy peaks of Cadrin Valley. Our army marched for days through this treacherous landscape, only to find the forces of Order already arrayed against us. Exhausted after the forced march and cut off from any reinforcements, we prepared our battle lines and readied to meet our hated enemy. With so little hope, the sheer savagery of my allies filled me with bloodlust and pride. We would take as many with us as we could. The battle raged around us, friend and foe alike spilling their blood in the deadly dance of war. At last I realised that we must make the ultimate sacrifice to our gods. Let them come. gods of war were satisfied, holding all the countless fallen in their embrace. Be not sad for our passing, dear enemies, for we lived well and spilled promised blood 1,000 times over. I found the best of Dark Elf, Chaos, and Greenskin alike to stand beside in battle, and such enemies as gave a feast for my darkened soul, such blood. So weep not, brothers and sisters, for we shall all be reborn.